You know when you find a bee and it's crawling on its last legs?
I always rescue them.
You give it honey. It's the only thing they eat. Makes sense when you think about it. No point just talking to it, give it honey.
They're very much a one-recipe species, aren't they?
I'm intrigued because I generally give it the sole of my shoe, but you know, not to be harsh, but you know,
I tread on a struggling, crawling bee.
Yeah,
trying to get back to the hive.
What? As opposed to rehabilitate it?
I like honey. I have it on my porridge. You murderer.
Yeah, but
you depend on bees.
We need the bees.
Okay, so in future I should lure the bee back. And sorry, do I get a syringe of honey, just a tiny amount of honey? How do I feed this
teaspoon of honey?
disabled
Leave
bee?
it with the honey. Don't tread on it. It should be criminal offence. But you should be arrested.
But you should be...
locked up. You know where? In a hive.
But isn't it true though that a bee in his entire lifetime makes an absolutely tiny amount of honey overall? I mean, just a minute amount of them.
Yeah,
so you don't have to give much rehabilitating honey to this one bee before the nation, the world, is making a net loss from that bee. You know, it's useless. If you only get 1 teaspoon of honey from a whole bee's lifetime, and every time we have to get it back on its feet, it takes a teaspoon and a half, suddenly there's no honey at all.
This is more honey than this bee has seen in its life.
Yeah. You're insulting it, apart from anything else. It's like showing a very tired mason a whole cathedral.
Well, let's say that you're in between Alan and Dara. So, like Alan, you want to help the bee give it honey. But like Dara, you also want to kill. What you can do is you get what I would term too much honey, and you see the bee, and you pour molten honey. Look, hear me out.
All right, OK.
And then you watch him die a slow...
Yeah, I carry on. Yes, I've now heard you out.
Yes.
And it's no better.
Well, no, that's
worse. Much worse than what I did.
Torturing
you're
a
being
bee.
humane, are you?
Yeah, I am being...
You're not. You're getting a kick out of it.
Let's forget that.
Drowning the bee ironically in honey. You want some honey? How much honey do you want? Is this too much honey?
Oh, not so keen on the honey now, are you? After your lifetime making honey.
You may try and drown bees, Dara, but I will follow you.
Dara who wanted to drown the bee.
Yes, it was.
My
He's
scenario.
a bee drowner.
He wanted to smash it in his shoes.
He wanted to tread on it.
It is a bee in a bath. I don't then go, right, get the shoe. Splishy, splashy, splishy, splashy.
Very good. Well, thank you for that interesting, fierce and, I think, productive debate. I did one of those Royal Command performances many years ago, and Anthony Newley wrote a song for the end that we had to do, which had the gorgeous line, at the London Palladium, the PA-double-L-adium, the super starry stadium that showbiz calls home.
Oh,
great song.
Brilliant.
London Palladium, PA.
I'll throw myself in the orchestra pit.
Yeah, who's with me? And of course you do that thing. What is there a word for this musically where you go? That showbiz. Yeah. For what I'm about to mention, that showbiz calls home. Have a banana. That showbiz calls home, and I love it. That showbiz calls home. Will you shut up? That showbiz calls home. What is that?
The annoying coda.
Yeah, annoying coda, yeah.
I don't know what we're talking about anymore, but I completely lost track. Who's this Newley man?
Anthony Newley was a...
Anthony Newley. The greatest
He used to sing with 100 syllables. Like that.
And David Bowie stole his voice, of course.
Yeah, David Bowie, exactly.
David Bowie did steal his voice, yeah.
And he was the first, not the first, but he was a very early Artful Dodger.
He was, one of the first, yeah. And he,
Come on, silly. Yes.
he was, of course, one of the most successful British showbiz people of all time. Won Oscars, won Tonys, and he wrote Goldfinger. So before we snigger too much, Goldfinger. And there's a story, because Tony Newley told me himself...
You haven't got a
he
child,
wrote Goldfinger.
Daddy.
He won the Oscar for Goldfinger. he won the Oscar for Goldfinger in 64 or 65, and he was up against Henry Mancini, and he was at the Oscars, and he says, Dan, if you ever win... Hang on, I'm doing Max Bygrave for some reason. Dan, if you ever win an Oscar, and you will, he said... He said, the first thing you want to do, he said, you go straight to the toilets and stand there looking at yourself in the mirror and with your Oscar and all this, he said, and I was in the toilets and I just won for Goldfinger and Henry Mancini came in and he said, where did you get that melody for that song? It's brilliant. He said, thank you, Henry. And he thought, oh, he won last year for Moon River. Moon River. I just won for Goldfinger. Oh, my seriously? Yeah. And he said, and I thought, it was an accident. But Henry Mancini, gentleman of the earth, just left him with that.
Oh, you wrote the music for Goldfinger, then?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you meant you wrote the film. I was going to say...
Would you like a cup of cocoa?
If cryogenics takes off, then it might benefit you to commit suicide. Quite young, because then you get brought back looking exactly the same. Then you do it again.
That's true.
So you get a couple of years, top yourself, get frozen again.
Why would you just freeze yourself? Why would you top yourself and then freeze yourself? In the hope that they'll have cured suicide. Someday medical science will have moved on to have found some way of dealing with massive gunshot wounds to the head. And then I'll come back and score, because I'll look great. Is the idea to, like, just every decade of a couple of good years in the clubs and riding people? Why would you even do that?
Yeah, and then you come back in another 100 years' time, see what it's like, top yourself, come back another 100 years' time.
Wait, no, you're not getting my point.
You started it with a serial
Freeze
suicide.
yourself, but why did you have to top yourself first?
Because you're frozen when you're dead, not when you're alive. They don't put you in the freezer.
I know, I think they freeze you when you're alive.
Freeze you when you're alive?
Well, they can freeze you, yeah.
How can you be so shocked you freeze when you're alive? You could kill yourself.
Well, when you're dying...
I thought it was at the moment of death and they just quickly whip your brain out with your organs, you know, like they do with all people's organs.
I don't think they're allowed to freeze you when you're actually alive.
Because
while they say the freezing is so that you can wake up in the future, in fact, the freezing would kill you. I mean...
sure. No, I'm thinking...
All these Alan's plan, you'd already be dead. And then they take your brain out, something else you said, and at some point, 100 years on, they put the brain back in again. You'd look great.
It's going to work.
Why would you not want Private Gwilym Jenkins of the Royal Welsh Regiment guarding your rose bushes? Sean.
He's a goat.
Is the right answer! Very good. Very good. Yeah. How did you knew that, or was it an inspired guess?
No, I knew it, because I know it's a Welsh regiment, isn't it, that has a goat.
Yeah. The various different Welsh regiments that were conjoined a few years ago. And there he is, isn't he fine?
Yes.
Excellent.
Satan.
From the Royal Herd at Windsor. He's... What?
You said he looks like Satan.
Satan. Satan in the 70s, you know.
That's a bit, you're right.
There's a regiment in Norway where there's a general or something, he's a penguin, don't they?
You're right, again.
He was actually honoured, strangely, a Norwegian regiment, and he was honoured in Edinburgh, of all places, or inspected the troops, some troops in Edinburgh.
And a penguin did?
A penguin wanders up and down with a thing round his neck and...
Looking up the kilts?
Could be.
No.
What do you mean a thing?
Well, like a medal. They couldn't pin a medal on him, but he's got some seal of office, and he walks up and down.
Seal as well? God! Wow! We've got a seal, a penguin. Right. But other regimental mascots include... What would the Irish Guards have?
Leprechaun.
It's a big dog.
Goldfish.
No. Not at all.
One of those Irish dogs.
Irish
Wolfhound. Wolfhound, thank you. Irish wolfhound is indeed, yes. The Argyll and Sutherland Highlanders, what would they have?
Big cow.
Massive, great.
Or a bull.
A haggis.
Thing. No. Cow. No. Pekingese.
No.
Tiger. A tiger. Big tiger.
An Argyll and Sutherland Terrier.
Oh, no, it's further. What do you get? It's about the same size, virtually, as the Irish wolfhound and the goat.
Oh, the cow.
The bonsai panther.
Really small. What's up north of Scotland, further north?
Wales.
Shetland pony.
Shetland pony. Well done, Alan. They have a Shetland pony. And the Worcestershire and Sherwood Foresters.
Bottle of sauce.
Yeah. Woodlouse.
A man
Massive
dressed
I
in
didn't
bottle
say
of
the
sauce.
Worcestershire and Sherwood Foresters. No,
Put his face out in it, you know, like that.
Chaffinch.
not.
I read that, you know, the current North Korean leader, Kim Jong-il.
Yeah, beloved leader or beautiful leader.
He demands... Kimmy. He demands that
Dear leader.
his duvets are filled with the softest down known to man. And the softest down, apparently, known to man, is the chin of a sparrow. And he has 150,000 sparrow chins stuffed into his duvet.
No. Do they shave the live sparrow and send it back, or did they kill a sparrow?
Yeah, just a little tickle under the chin.
Chuck it under the chin.
Stephen fills his duvet with the softest man known to sparrow.
I do.
Who painted this picture?
Yes.
Van Gogh.
We're after... How is it?
Well, I'm going to go Van Gogh.
Van Gogh.
Van Gogh.
Van Gogh?
Van Gogh.
Oh, yeah.
Here's Jimmy. Cézanne.
At least you don't lose points for that for some extraordinary reason.
Van Gogh.
Closer, but we
Van
need...
Gogh.
What? Oh, better.
Van Gogh.
Van Gogh.
Now, listen, we can help you out with how that name... You came jolly close, Jack. Were you aware there's a Dutch version of QI?
Yeah. Yes.
And would you like to see the presenter who
Not really.
Yes, you would.
They will certainly be
Here
able.
he is, and he's going to tell us how the name is
Oh,
pronounced.
yeah, it's going to be pretty good.
He
It's
is
so sexy.
Archie
this.
Gappin. Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
Come on.
Come on, show me.
The correct Dutch pronunciation is Vincent van Gogh. But please don't try this at home.
There you are.
I love
Well,
him.
what would he know?
It's good.
Van Gogh.
He wears more makeup than you, Stephen.
Let's have the next word. And it's grog blossom. It's a phrase. Grog blossom. Would you like to explain what grog blossom means?
It's actually the kind of mould that you get around the inside of a barrel of beer that you have to clean out before you can use it again.
Right. Phil.
I'd like to, if I may, do it in the style of the usual customary out-of-work actor they used to have on Call My Bluff, who would then really lean into his definition in an effort to beg for work.
Imagine, if you will,
A lone figure walking across Hampstead Heath. The sun glinting in his very eyes, for he is making his way back from an evening at the inn, where he has partaken of mead and other lascivious beverages. Adorning the chin of said stout fellow are pimples, for they betray his excesses, and these, at the time, were known as Marty Fitch 01287 available for Panto. Grog Blossom.
Oh, bravo.
Excellent.
The true understanding of evolution also shows that nature is completely horrific.
That was a major part. The Victorians hated because they thought they loved their countryside and they loved bird song.
Mrs. Alexander's, you know, all things bright and beautiful.
Yes,
so
and instead they're locked in a vicious struggle for survival
exactly.
where
all
the
animals are hungry and afraid and they die before they get old, and it's a miserable, hard life.
Unless they live in zoos when they're quite stress-free.
It is. It's a life they wouldn't expect in the wild.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe they should, if they come out of zoo for a little bit, and let them back in the circus. Just a little bit. I miss a dog pushing a pram. Cirque du Soleil is all very well. An elephant counting.
You're pitching yourself in a tailcoat and tights and a top hat, welcoming everybody to Circus X Factor. Call me a Nancy.
Don't be so... No.
Would you have to do the elephant's backstory, the elephant's emotional, this is the elephant's last chance at a career in show business. And the elephant bursts into tears.
And then do the, he's doing this for his dead grandfather, and then a shot of the elephant staring at a big pile of ivory.
You are a sick puppy.
Do some piano keys. That'd be
Oh.
the man who's about to play for him.
Tactless.
Yeah, the granddad was in show business as well.
Oddly enough, it seems that both girls and boys will take more pain from a woman. They did calibrated tests of putting fingers in a clamp, and both men... I know.
Who volunteered for that?
I know. Who would volunteer for
You
such a
get
thing?
to keep the clamp.
Students, you pay students. Anyway, you say stop when you really can't take the pen anymore. And in both women and men's cases, women could turn it further. But oddly enough, there are all kinds of other things. If there are pleasant pictures on the wall, you can take more pain. And it was rather good to know that that's what art does for us all.
Well, there's a wonderful
Relieves
thing
the pain
called
of living.
Stendhal syndrome. Do you know about Stendhal syndrome?
Oh, yes.
Which is a wonderful idea, which is that people who are so overwhelmed by a piece of art, they feel faint.
I think we covered it in the last series. Do you remember Stendhal's... No. That's the beauty. We can do the questions again and again.
That rings a bell.
The odd thing is also painkillers have different effects. Did you know this? But right up until the 1990s, drug companies did not test painkillers on women.
Because they complain anyway.
Whoa, Jack, you're making friends. Whoa, I fear you probably... I think Jack better suffer for that one. Actually, women's ability to take different levels of pain alters in different stages of the menstrual cycle. And so the pharmaceutical company said that women were not a reliable test of painkillers.
Because we were all over the place.
Because you were all over the place. But then the American FDA said this is not good enough and you must factor it in and work out how to test painkillers.
Just come back from America, Stephen, didn't they... Fantastic drugs in America. You can buy, shed loads of drugs in America, right? I was in a chemist in America recently and I wanted to look for something and I ended up not in a hemorrhoid section, in a hemorrhoid aisle.
Yes. It is astonishing. The size of those Walgreens and those huge pharmacies in America. Unbelievable, aren't they? Absolutely
It's embarrassing walking down the hemorrhoid aisle. It's bad enough if you've got to go in and ask for the stuff, apparently.
Yeah. Apparently he likes to walk down the hemorrhoid aisle.
Yeah.
Oh, dear.
Get out exactly an hour, though. What was the hour? Where did they... Hour? Why did they decide on an hour? What was that? What was the... Why an hour? Why not just, half an hour and make that an hour?
Because 24 is divisible in so many different ways.
It's very factorisable.
Divisible by 2 and 3 and 4 and 6 and 8.
10.
Exactly.
You could add 10.
No, 10 is only divisible by 1, 2, 5 in itself.
Only on one...
That's by 24.
If you go into another dimension, you could have anything you want.
But unfortunately, we weren't in another dimension.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
Forgive me, but why was it important to divide 24 by 8?
Yeah.
Well, no, to have as divisible a system as possible.
Why wouldn't it be 100? Why not have 100? Make it all up to 10.
If you want to do that, then you can have a plan to decimalise time, if you like.
In fact, I'm going to live my own. I won't make my own. In fact, I'm going to cross 2 of these off. Let's have a vote.
What should we vote on, though? Which number?
3 and 8.
Yeah.
last night. You joined the show.
You can't do 1 to 10 because then we'll never have 11s ever again.
So,
No, well, leave it at 9s.
so look, can you just...
9s?
9s.
So what is your system? How many hours are in your day?
20.
20 hours of
Nice and
daylight.
simple. We call it a hurrar.
Right. Okay, a hoor. A hoor?
A hoor. Strumpets.
The price is a whore, I think.
20 strumpets.
Yeah. Well, it originally was 12 hours because the Babylonians were the first really
Yeah, well,
to
what do
come
they
to
know?
it. Well, they... Right. But they had a base 12 counting system.
But we have 10 fingers and 10 toes. And then you could count off the bits, the sections of time by each one of your digits, couldn't you?
What time is it?
What time is it? 1, 2, 3.5.
2 minutes past 4. What would that be then? About 6.
About 6, yeah.
Well, good luck. That could be an interesting line in merchandisable metric clocks.
Yes.
Yeah. It's the Bill Bailey QI metric clock.
Metric clock.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine, that'll do me.
Anyway, we've just done an hour on that topic.
Yes. Yeah,
My new system.
I think you'll find it's an hour and a bit.
that can only mean one thing. Time to move on. Where does the extra square in this diagram come from? Those two are the same size, aren't they? And they're all made up of elements that are the same size. You can actually see... Can you see there's a white square there, of bits missing?
Oh, yeah.
How can that be?
Because some of the triangles...
Have a look at it actually happening. It goes, whoop, that one goes there, that one goes there, that goes there, whoa, like so, like so, like so.
So now there's more space in there.
Yeah, and that can't be possible. Can it?
And yet my eyes tell me it is.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's not even longer. It's
the same, isn't it?
Yeah, there it is. It is a cheat.
That's witchcraft.
Yeah, it is rather, isn't it? It was funny enough, rather appropriate. It was a magician who discovered this.
It's 5 blocks high.
5 blocks high.
The same number of blocks long by the look of it.
It's a very small, subtle cheat. The hypotenuse in the top one and in the bottom one seems to be the same, but they are curved. They're not straight. The red triangle has a ratio of 5 to 2. The blue triangle has a ratio of 8 to 3. So the two triangles are not similar.
So it's going like that,
yeah,
and like that.
Exactly.
It's
one of them is
bigger
dipped.
area.
Exactly. One of them has a slightly dipped line, the other has a slightly up line. The eye assumes they're straight, and it's puzzled by that gap. Anyway, we thought you'd like that. It's quite interesting, isn't it?
It's quite interesting.
Yeah, there's...
Quite that.
Yeah. So it's Curry's paradox. It's simply a trick. The gap appears because the hypotenuse is imperceptibly bent. All of
Curry's paradox.
Yeah, it's nice, that, isn't it?
Should you buy the insurance? Or just risk it?
Yeah. But there are, of course, the lovely Osmonds. Aren't they lovely? And then what teeth?
They were rubbish.
Were they? Oh, they?
Apart from little Jimmy Osmond, he was a long-haired lover from Liverpool.
Yeah.
And well, of course, it was Big Graham Osmond, the one they kept in the attic.
Who had terrible teeth.
He had one massive
yellow
like
teeth.
Claw.
Yeah.
But he wrote all the songs. By groaning them, he groaned them into a tin can that was connected by a piece of string.
Wild horses, crazy horses.
Very bad. And
Roses!
What was that, Graham?
behave. Pull yourselves together at once. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
What a great idea! That's a great idea for an episode of Doctor Who, isn't it? Doctor Who goes into the attic and finds the elderly secret brother of the hospital. And that's how they kill off David Tennant. Imagine that.
Nobody's supposed to know that. Is that the plot of the Christmas show?
Played by Bill Bailey.
I was buying some ties the other day.
We were having some ties
and the person
surely selected
having
for
them
you.
selected for me. And they said, do you want them in a bag or should I put them in a box? I said, oh, I'll have them in a bag. I said, though, if I'd asked you to put them in a box, you could have said to your friends you spent the day tie boxing. Oh, I know.
And we laugh.
There you are. Yeah,
This is kind of gold you miss if you're not on the street where Steve...
I regret it. I just thought at the time.
It's a very nice one.
Well, and I imagine when he came round...
In what sense?
When he picked himself back up off the floor. Shall I still put them in the box?
All right. It was a light remark. Yeah.
Wish I came in here more often.
Why did it take 300 years to give the giant tortoise a scientific name?
A scientific name?
Yeah, i.e. the Latin name. It turned out to be called Geochelonia, you know.
Is it because they just thought that was pretty good, giant tortoise?
We'll leave it with that.
Yeah.
So,
yeah?
No, I was going to say something about which now is unusable. I'm going to have to say it now.
Go on. How did it, man?
They thought...
It's better be good.
They thought it was a normal tortoise, but closer, is what I was going to say. You see what I mean? But then I couldn't get that concept. It's like, would it be actually further away? And then the normal one further away would be actually a minute one. Would they mistake a quite far away normal one for a miniaturised one? That's a bit...
Yeah, but the thing that you're saying is that the tortoise...
It's a further way. If they
I like it. Oh, go that way.
Yeah. If there was like a tortoise over there that was giant, but I for some reason thought it was just there, then I wouldn't think it was giant. I'd think it was just, oh, there's just one there. If it was just a normal tortoise there, nothing about that. Oh my God, it's over there and it's massive!
It would have to be on a huge beach with no other points of reference.
Well, yes, exactly.
Yeah,
Are they...
That's not the reason.
Are they particularly litigious? Now, if you give me a name, I will sue you.
No, it wasn't that. It's a nice thought again. No, they had another property which was most unfortunate for them to have.
What, the tortoises did?
Yeah.
They were edible.
They were so edible. Anyone, I mean...
Anyone who saw one couldn't stop to think of a name for it. They just had to eat it straight away.
Here's one of those...
Yeah.
I don't know what they're called.
There's no... Do you know...
Just get one, they're really very good.
There's no Latin name for the pistachio nut. Exactly the same way. No one can be bothered. Just shut up with your Latin. Eat them. They're brilliant.
That's what happened. No Latin name for Maltesers.
None of them made it. It's kind of true. None of them made it to London. None of them made it to Europe.
This time, we're going to take it and we'll take London.
Leave it. No.
However,
I'm taking it back. People's getting up in
ferry coming into Dover, there's a bloke going... leaving the door with a tortoise instead.
All right, look. Take 9 of them, we'll eat 8. Absolutely.
And then everyone's looking at it and going, come on.
And then the seas become... The days on end, the seas become... There's one tortoise left.
Can you
come on, sir. Come on, we'll go back. Let's just go back and get some more.
Can you imagine the moment after they've eaten that last tortoise? They're sitting there thinking, we are...
Even on...
I'm too full.
Even Darwin, on Darwin's last boycott. There were dozens. There were dozens.
He collected every species in the world and ate that one.
They had them all. They did.
I've done all those. Done all the butterflies. Done all the beetles. I'm eating that.
The only descriptions of them are comparing them to chicken, beef, mutton and butter and saying they're how much better they are than all of those things. No one who'd ever eaten tortoise had ever eaten anything better.
Why
They said, and the liver and the bone marrow, every part of it was unbelievably delicious.
Whereabouts are they from?
Well, from the tropics, mostly.
Are there flights over there?
They are now protected. All 12 species.
They're that delicious, they can't be. Well, they just say, yeah, we've protected them, they're all in there, no need to look.
But there were some that survived, however, and let me tell you about a very extraordinary
that
one.
bloke there, he's just befriending that one. Yeah, come over here, my pretty. I'm trying to think of a name for you.